Ladies and gentlemen, we've done a big deal. The buyer's car arrived on time. As soon as he stepped out, he asked why Salem was there. It's like waiting for a movie that never starts. 5 minutes before meeting, we heard Salem couldn't come. Is today a prank? We've got to make him step up his game. It's got to be way more complicated. But at that moment, the buyer suddenly noticed the stylish boots on Carl's toes talk about a fashion statement. Don't move, or I'll drop you. This is a major plot twist, one for the headlines, for sure. No one wants to get sent to Halloween this afternoon. We definitely don't want the big cat finding out about this. Can we do this? I get it, bring the cash. And believe it or not, this buyer's just an average Joe. Even an average player must yield to true skill. Soon, only one shooter remained. The young guy saw everyone else dropping like flies, so while shooting, he made a mad dash for the bushes, and Carl was right on his tail. Subtitles. He fired a shot and took down the fleeing youngster directly, exactly as we had planned. It felt just like winning a game. Just like we planned. You live your life, I live mine, and what do you say, clever kid? Clearly, for the youngster, this deal was like finding money. Both sides completed it unusually, but the car broke down midway. Carl had no choice but to ask his brother-in-law for a ride. At home, he realized he couldn't conceal the truth, so he told his brother-in-law about the deal with the Wildcat, who was slightly reluctant. But he had no choice but to warn Carl, what if Wildcat reneges? For Carl, it was no big deal. On a bright sunny afternoon, Carl summoned the deputy sheriff to the outskirts, ready to spill the beans on the Wildcat's crimes. Everyone knows cops love their evidence. But Carl's words alone simply lack persuasiveness. It really all depends on one's own strength to substantiate and prove one's abilities. I need you not to give him all my cash. I'm trying to cut ties here. Clearly, Carl was keener than the deputy for the Wildcat to vanish, so they struck a tearful deal. Later that night, the deputy called Jack to mark the Wildcat's Lab on their map. This was to ensure they could handle the Wildcat, but just as Carl chatted with the deputy, Wildcat's crew was knocking at his door again. When he walked in, Carl realized everyone there was a dealer. What a party. Wildcat started bragging, leading everyone into the hall. Just then, while everyone was celebrating, a goon pushed a mysterious figure through a side door. The covering was pulled back, and the room was filled with gasps. It was the deputy sheriff Carl had just struck a deal with. Upon witnessing this scene, Carl's face transformed into a palette of emotions, exclaiming, "Oh, the true love for our work. That guy is truly hopeless. Are you saying your photo is an embarrassment? Now, they're telling me I have to do this?" Joking aside, a henchman wheeled in a cart full of torture tools. Wildcat instructed his crew to mix and match, then 2 of them lifted a wolf's head, ready to serve a feast for the deputy. Even the dealers around were left in shock. This felt straight out of a suspense thriller. But Wildcat wasn't done. He pulled out a utility knife and a saw. Talk about madness. At that moment, Carl couldn't stand it anymore. He stepped up, saying they had all had enough. It was time for a wrap. This woman was cold-hearted. Carl wanted to save the deputy, but all hope just vanished like a puff of smoke. Then Carl told Wildcat he had completed his 3 tasks and it was time to hit the road. "I'm saying this isn't over. You want my daughter next. You're out of it, buddy, and you can take your sister's bones too. This is like a bar story. You brought this on yourself." Obviously, this femme fatale wanted to use Carl's brother-in-law and niece against him, but Carl was at a total loss here. The next morning, Wildcat was still dreaming when his goons came in. They had decrypted the deputy's phone and found Carl's chest. Talk about undercover work. "What exactly do you expect me to do about this situation? Is it genuinely a serious matter?" This lady ended up revealing all the juicy details while she was engaged in a conversation with Wildcat. Turns out they were in cahoots, a predestined nightmare. The deputy was also feeding him info. Clearly, this guy had thrown all sense of justice and fairness out the window for a little cash talk about playing the money game. Meanwhile, Carl entrusted Lucy to Old White as the next steps were too risky. He didn't want her at risk. Old White knew Carl well enough to know what kind of guy he is, so he happily agreed to Carl's request. Carl set his sights on the two henchmen closest to the Wildcat, waiting for them to park their car. He swiftly drew his gun, charged, downed one disembarking. The other, sensing danger, sped off. Carl got knocked out cold, but when he woke up, he saw those two had headed northwest, so he made a hasty. As he prepared to drive off, he found his keys dropped and reinforcements for the Wildcat had arrived. With no alternative available, Carl had no choice but to leave first and reconsider his plan later. Shortly thereafter, Wildcat arrived at the scene of the police investigation. Before long, Wildcat's crew burst into Old White's house because they knew Lucy was hiding out there. Lucy hid in the ceiling, but when she heard Old White getting roughed up, she just couldn't help but dash downstairs. A brave little girl indeed. Smart girl, she just saved you. Old White is willing to negotiate with her. Old White is willing to make a trade for the girl's life.